February 1945. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, there was an island that looked like nothing more than black rock and ash. A small volcanic landmass. Rough. Barren. Almost lifeless. But beneath that surface, an entire battlefield was waiting. This was Iwo Jima. And what happened here would become one of the most brutal and unforgettable battles of World War II. For the United States, the island was more than just territory. It was a strategic necessity. American bombers were already striking Japan. But many of those planes were being damaged on their missions. They needed a place to land. A place closer to Japan. A place that could save lives. Iwo Jima was that place. But taking it would not be easy, because the island was already prepared. Not just defended, but transformed. Under the command of General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, Japanese forces had abandoned traditional defensive tactics. They would not try to stop the Americans at the shoreline. They would not waste lives in a single overwhelming charge. Instead, they would wait. They would let the enemy come in. And then, they would strike. Beneath the island, thousands of soldiers worked in silence. Digging, building, preparing. Miles of tunnels were carved into the volcanic rock. Hidden bunkers connected underground. Artillery positions concealed from view. Machine gun nests placed where no one could see them. Everything was designed for one purpose: to turn the entire island into a trap. Above ground, there were few visible defenses. No obvious signs of what was coming. Just black sand beaches. And the looming presence of Mount Suribachi. Silent. Watching. Waiting. Then came the invasion. Thousands of U.S. Marines approached the island by sea. Ships filled the horizon. Warships. Transports. Landing craft. The scale was enormous. Before the landing, American forces unleashed a massive bombardment. Naval guns fired relentlessly. Shells crashed into the island for days. Explosions tore across the landscape. Smoke covered the sky. From a distance, it looked like nothing could survive. But beneath the surface, the defenders waited, safe inside their underground network, unseen, unbroken. Then, on February 19th, the Marines landed. Landing craft hit the black sand beaches. Soldiers moved forward, step by step, expecting resistance, expecting gunfire, expecting chaos. But instead, there was silence. Only the sound of boots sinking into volcanic sand. Only the distant echo of waves. It didn't make sense. No enemy. No movement. No fire. Just an empty battlefield. And for a brief moment, it felt like the bombardment had worked, that the island had already been defeated. But that silence was part of the plan, because beneath their feet, the enemy was waiting. And in just moments, the island would come alive. At first, it was just a few shots, distant, almost uncertain. Then suddenly, everything changed. The ground itself seemed to erupt. Machine guns opened fire from hidden positions. Mortars exploded across the beach. Artillery shells crashed into the advancing Marines. The silence was gone, replaced by chaos. The Japanese defenses, hidden beneath the surface, had come alive. Gunfire came from everywhere. From bunkers. From caves. From positions that had been completely invisible moments before. There was no clear enemy to target. No obvious front line. Only a storm of fire. The black volcanic sand made everything worse. Each step forward was difficult. Heavy. Slow. Vehicles struggled to move. Men sank into the ground as they tried to advance. And all the while, they were under constant attack. Marines tried to take cover, but there was almost nowhere to hide. The beach offered little protection. and the enemy remained unseen, hidden inside the island itself. Progress was slow, painfully slow. Every meter gained came at a cost. Units became pinned down. Casualties began to rise. And still, the fire continued. Flamethrowers were brought forward, grenades thrown into bunker openings, rifles fired into dark cave entrances. But clearing these positions was incredibly dangerous, because behind every bunker, there was another. And behind every cave, another tunnel. The Japanese defenders moved through their underground network, appearing, disappearing, repositioning, striking from new angles. It was not a battle of movement. It was a battle of endurance, of survival. The Marines were not just fighting an army. They were fighting the island itself. And every inch forward had to be taken by force. Days turned into nights, and nights into more fighting. There was no pause on Iwo Jima, no moment of true silence. Only brief lulls between waves of violence. By now, the Marines understood something clearly. This was not a battle that would be won quickly. It would be taken inch by inch. Every advance came at a cost. Every position was defended. Every movement was watched. The island itself had become the enemy. The focus shifted toward the southern end of the island, toward the massive volcanic formation that dominated the landscape. Mount Suribachi, rising above the battlefield like a dark shadow, watching everything, controlling everything. From its slopes, Japanese forces had clear lines of sight. They could direct artillery, coordinate fire, and strike at any movement below. As long as Suribachi stood, no part of the battlefield was safe. So the order was given: take the mountain. Marines began advancing toward its base. The terrain was unforgiving. Loose volcanic ash, steep inclines, sharp rock formations. Every step forward was difficult. Every movement exposed. And the enemy was waiting, hidden inside the mountain itself. The defenses were deeply embedded. Caves carved into the rock. Bunkers concealed behind natural formations. Machine guns positioned to cover every approach. As Marines moved closer, the fire intensified. Bullets cut through the air. Mortars exploded across the slopes. Snipers struck from hidden angles. There was no clear direction to fight. Only threats from everywhere. The only way forward was through it. Flamethrower units were brought in, one of the most feared weapons of the battlefield. They moved carefully, slowly, approaching cave entrances, and then fire. Flames surged into the darkness. Heat filled the confined spaces. Smoke poured out from the openings. Explosions followed as grenades were thrown inside. Each bunker, each cave, had to be cleared manually, up close, face to face. The fighting was brutal, relentless, personal. There were no long-distance engagements here. No safe distance. Only close combat and survival. The Japanese defenders did not retreat. They held their ground, fighting from within the tunnels, moving between positions unseen, appearing suddenly, striking, then disappearing again. It was a battle of endurance, of will, of who could keep going longer. Casualties mounted. Exhaustion set in. But still, the Marines pushed forward. Because they had to, because there was no other way. Finally, after days of continuous fighting, they reached the summit. And on February 23, 1945, something changed. A small group of Marines raised a flag at the top of Mount Suribachi. It was not a large moment at first, just a signal, a marker. But when it rose, something powerful happened. Across the island, Marines saw it. From the beaches, from the battlefield, from positions still under fire. They saw the flag. And for a moment, they felt something different. Hope. A sense that progress had been made, that something had been achieved. But even then, even in that moment, the truth remained. The battle was far from over, because beyond Suribachi, the rest of Iwo Jima was still waiting. And the hardest fighting was still ahead. The raising of the flag on Mount Suribachi became a symbol, a powerful image, one that would be remembered across generations. But on Iwo Jima, it did not mean the end. It marked only the beginning of the final and most brutal phase of the battle. To the north of the island, Japanese defenses remained strong, untouched, unbroken. An entire network of tunnels, bunkers, and fortified positions still held thousands of soldiers, and they were prepared to fight until the end. The terrain became even more complex. Rocky ridges, hidden valleys, interconnected defensive lines. Every step forward revealed new resistance, new fire, new danger. Marines advanced slowly, clearing positions one by one, but the enemy continued to emerge from underground, from hidden openings, from places that seemed impossible. Even after areas were secured, attacks could come from behind, from beneath, from within the island itself. Sleep became rare, rest almost impossible. The sound of gunfire and explosions never fully stopped. The air was thick with smoke, ash, and the constant tension of not knowing where the next attack would come from. For the Japanese defenders, surrender was not an option. Many fought until their final moments, holding their positions, defending every inch. The battle became one of attrition, of endurance, of survival. Weeks passed, and still the fighting continued. The cost on both sides was staggering. Thousands of Marines killed or wounded. Thousands of Japanese soldiers lost. Entire units reduced. Positions gained at tremendous cost. By March 1945, the battle finally came to an end. The island was secured. The objective achieved. Iwo Jima was now under American control. But what remained was not victory alone. It was sacrifice. The island would go on to play a critical role, providing a base for American bombers, a place where damaged aircraft could land safely, a place that would save countless lives in the final months of the war. But those who fought there paid the price, because Iwo Jima was not just a battle. It was a test of endurance, of courage, of what human beings can survive and what they are willing to endure. Even today, the black sands of that island remain silent, but not empty, because beneath them are the echoes of those who fought, those who advanced, those who held their ground, and those who never left. If this story made you feel the weight of that battle, if you could sense the intensity of every step taken on that island, take a moment now. Like this video, share it with others who are passionate about history, and follow Echoes of War. Because history is not just something we learn, it is something we remember.